On his first day at work, the black caregiver deliberately poured boiling water on his boss's legs.
Vous avez fini de jouer?
Mais en fait, vous sentez rien du tout là.
During mealtime, he was so distracted by the boss's sexy secretary that he accidentally fed the food into the boss's eyes.
S'il vous plaît. Oh. Eh.
Not only was this caregiver unreliable, but he was also absent-minded while working. He even fell fast asleep during a training session. Later, when he lifted the boss into a nearby wheelchair, he thought he did a great job, but he nearly let the boss fall out of the chair. That evening, when the boss wanted to answer the phone, the caregiver simply handed it to him, completely forgetting that the boss was paralyzed from head to toe. The caregiver also didn't like the look of the boss's beard, so he styled it like this, and like this. But strangely, not only did the boss not fire him, he actually paid him several times more than the others. The boss's friends couldn't understand why he would hire a thug. They said this kind of person has no empathy at all. But that was exactly what the boss wanted.
Souvent il me tend le téléphone, tu sais pourquoi? Moi il est grand, il est costaud, il a 2 bras, 2 jambes.
It was the caregiver's carefree attitude that made him feel extremely relaxed. The caregiver never treated the boss like a disabled person. The next day, when the caregiver took the boss out, he immediately shook his head and refused when he opened the door to an ordinary caregiver's car. He didn't want the boss to be shoved into the car like an animal. At that moment, the caregiver unveiled a cover on the car next to them and discovered a long-sealed Maserati. He decided right then and there to help the boss rediscover his need for speed and passion. But as soon as they were about to leave, a private car blocked their way out. The boss expressed his helplessness, saying that this neighbor was always like this and talking to him many times was no use. But the caregiver didn't think so.
Vas-y,
Regarde, passe la
plus fort sur ton pas.
C'est la bonne méthode, ça.
Les tout.
Emplacement réservé.
Voilà, maintenant, t'imprimes.
Just like that, he helped the boss deal with the bullying neighbor in a simple and crude way. Against all odds, these two people with completely opposite personalities, identities, and skin colors eventually became lifelong friends. Soon, they arrived at an art exhibition. The boss stared at a splatter of nosebleed on the wall for a long time, while the caregiver standing beside him just wanted to know how much this thing was worth.
Oui, il est à 41 500 €.
Je le prends.
Ah bon?
When he heard that the nosebleed was priced at 300,000 euros, the caregiver was indignant, saying that he could paint an identical one for just 50 euros. The boss knew the caregiver didn't understand art, so he tried to change the subject by offering him a piece of chocolate. But the caregiver started to tease the boss, telling the completely paralyzed man to get it himself. However, the boss didn't get angry at the caregiver's banter. Instead, he felt that this kind of interaction was very relaxing. Whether it was before or after his disability, everyone had always been extremely respectful of his status and fame. But now, when he was with the caregiver, they could always joke and laugh, as if he could forget about his situation. And it was this goofy guy who ended up saving the boss's life. Late one night, the caregiver heard the boss's painful gasps through the intercom. He rushed to check on him and saw the boss breathing heavily with an extremely pained expression. This was a side effect of the medication. Whenever this happened, the boss could only endure it alone. The caregiver didn't say anything. He just quietly wiped the sweat from the boss's forehead with a towel, used his cool palms to lower the boss's temperature, and carefully stayed by his side until the symptoms subsided. To avoid another incident, the caregiver decided to take the boss out for some fresh air. Walking on the streets of Paris at 4 a.m., the boss told the caregiver that this was called phantom pain. Even though his body had lost sensation, he could still feel that invisible suffering. The caregiver asked if there were other ways to alleviate these symptoms. Just then, 2 beautiful women passed by, and a smile instantly appeared on the boss's face. The caregiver immediately understood what the boss was thinking. Seeing the boss start to twitch again, the caregiver first took a puff for him, then took him to get a massage to relax. This was something the boss wouldn't have dared to imagine after he became paralyzed. With the caregiver's companionship, it was as if the boss had returned to the days when he was free to move about. This movie is called The Intouchables. Due to copyright restrictions, I can only show you the movie up to this point.